Imagine this. It's 6 p.m. You've made it out of the office. You're sitting in a school auditorium listening to someone going over few LEs for the 15th time today, and you're holding in your hands a crumpled program saying Little Susan's winter recital. Your phone rings. It's the CFO. They want today's cash position, not a rough sense, not we'll send it over first thing tomorrow. Now, the problem? You don't have it. What you have is a half cold coffee in your bag, a partner giving you a look that says, really? And a creeping sensation that you're about to open your laptop under the seat like it's contraband. This should have been sorted out hours ago. You thought it was. So what gives? Susan here might be fictional, but the situation is not. Liquidity has a way of not caring how well your day was planned. It moves, it hides, it slips through the cracks between systems, subsidiaries, currencies, reporting cycles, and expectations. And yet, it is the one thing everything else depends on. It answers the questions that matter, like, are we safe? Can we act? What will next week look like? And what happens if something unexpected hits tomorrow? These are not exotic questions, they are everyday questions. And when they are asked from you, you need to act. Not just know, not just report, act with confidence. So instead of pretending I have all the answers, I did something else. I asked 3 people who actually live this up close. I asked a group treasurer who has had to make the call more than once.
My name is Pekka Rognemi. I work as a head of Treasury at Urban Partners. I have experience from Treasury from the past 15 years. I've been working on both sides, so corporate, now working with the funds, investment banking, been working in the equities and also the rates trading.
An academic who has seen how Treasury decisions really get made in the real world.
I'm Lucia Alonen. I'm a Treasury solution consultant in Nomentia, and my background is in Treasury, in liquidity management, in Treasury operations management. I'm also an academic. I'm a PhD in Treasury topics.
And a transformation specialist.
My name is Pihla Ventonen, and for the moment I'm working here at Nomentia as the project manager. I have background in corporate treasury throughout my career, or I would say that the entire career around treasury management systems, being a super user or managing integrations, data feeds.
Their answers were grounded, practical, sometimes uncomfortable, never theoretical. My name is Antti Pekkala, and this is Frontline Liquidity. Let's start with Lucy. If you had to describe liquidity in Q4 with just one word, what would it be?
Clarity.
Pihla.
My favorite word here is hectic.
Pekka.
I would say accessible.
Why that word?
Because clarity is always important when reporting liquidity. It's not only for Q4, but we always need to know what cash we have in hand, what our cash forecast is, what we can afford to do. But when talking specifically about Q4, it's important also to be aligned with the company's strategy regarding reporting.
I think looking the last 6 years, so there has been extreme volatility in the markets. A lot of events have taken place. If you look at 2019, Corona took place, then going to Russia war against Ukraine, SVB collapsing in the US. So a lot of events have taken place which affect not only inflation but also the liquidity as well.
Personally, I consider the year end as a very hectic season or period. We know that the approaching year end, that is the big question here, because we know that there are many seasonal cash flows. There are also non-business days are impacting on the cash management, and especially in a situation where the corporate has business in multiple different areas. So then, of course, that impacts the big picture in a great way. So it means that everything must be managed, taking into the consideration that there are business holidays, there are that different cut-off times. So it makes for instance the payments management. I would say that quite something that is. It is very different from the so-called normal times over the year.
So let's get practical. It's December 20th. Reports from some subsidiaries are lagging, and the CFO calls asking for a precise view on cash on hand. What's your play?
It is a difficult question, but if only a couple of subsidiaries are missing, it means that the majority of the subsidiaries we have already visibility. So I need to sort out what are the subsidiaries lacking the full visibility, which means that, a question, do you have an automated approach or do you have a manual approach? Two completely separate approaches here. So let's think that we have an automated approach. So we are using Treasury systems which are connected to ERPs, etc. So this shouldn't be a big task in the end of the day. So first of all, assess the scope and define the cause. So what is the reason we are lacking, these subsidiaries are lacking visibility currently? Then clearly communicate the situation to CFO that he knows as well. So don't want to keep him unaware of this situation because the data is not necessarily 100% correct because of the lacking subsidiaries. So we need to make some adjustment internally. We can create a report for the available subsidiaries, which means that we have data available for that. So that is easy to create. We can evaluate the potential cash impact of the missing subsidiaries. So if you think that there is 5 subsidiaries missing balances, we can evaluate what is the cash impact. Are these subsidiaries which are holding a lot of cash, which means that the cash impact might be substantial. We can look at the past history, what has the volatility been, so we can evaluate based on the history. But we can also use the in and outflows for the intraday. If you mean that 28th his CFO is asking the question on the 19th, we still know what is the balance. So on the 20th, we can just look at the in and outflows for these subsidiaries and just compile one consolidated view based on this. So we have a majority of our accounts are visible, so available. So we can create kind of a clear view on these and then adjust the missing subsidiaries based on either historical data or then in and outflows plus the closing balance from the previous day.
So first thing I would do is to contact the subsidiaries and to check what their status is. If they are able to give me their numbers rather soon, or if they have some problem which needs a little bit longer solving. And in that case, it's the Treasury team who needs to step in. We would need to check our bank balances at least to be able to provide the cash position to the CFO. And then it's important to know what the CFO needs the numbers for. And then based on that, we can talk a little bit more if he needs short-term forecast, if he needs a view next 3 days, or if cash position, let's say, with some splits is good enough for his current request.
It might not even be that what is my next move, but what should be already there to enable managing the, I would say that in entire cash management in such a hectic period of time. I would say that way of thinking is that of course you need to have the real-time visibility over a cash position, so that is the core. And so what does it actually mean? That it means that you have access to up-to-date data. So it means that really accessing to up-to-date data instead of relying on static reports. And there I would say that in case and when you have access to the real-time data, so then it means that you have really the capability of making decisions based on accurate data, and that is very important, especially when we are managing like cash management in nearby the year end.
You have several bank accounts across multiple regions. How do you make sure you're not double counting or missing balances during the year-end rush?
It is a question that how the processes have been really constructed. And here I would emphasize a few things, or at least, let's put it this way, that in case you are able to unify the data management processes, so then I would say that it provides you the capability of really, I would say that relying on your figures and counting on your processes. And let's put it this way, that in case you don't have unified data management processes in place, so therefore it might mean that all the information, it is not in one place, but it is actually it is spread across different systems. It might be in ERPs, it might be in bank portals, it might be in Treasury management system. And therefore the processes are very error-prone in that case, and then of course the processes are very time-consuming also. So therefore, in case the company has capability of really constructing the processes and making sure that the data is managed in an, I would say, that consistent way. So therefore, it means that the data feeds are automated, and the integrations are automated between the system. So therefore, there is, I would say, that support for real-time visibility, and then of course it means that there is a clear control over the processes and then also over the figures, and then of course that brings the confidence.
That's a very important question. First of all, I would expect some level of automatization in the company. You are talking about multiple bank accounts?
Yes.
But they are probably not in 200 plus banks. They are probably in, let's say, 10, 15 banks, and then it's not such a challenge to go into each bank and check the balances.
You can do it either manually or you can do it automatically. So automation is always kind of the key, and it makes more certain that you have everything available once you automate the process, so you don't lack anything. And of course there might be some hiccups in the automation as well, but it is more certain than the manual process. So I would start off by having a clear end-to-end process flow. So segregation of duties, who takes care of, let's assume that we have a TMS in use. So who takes care of the TMS, who takes care of the ERP process, who's creating accounts, closing accounts, how the communication goes between these two stakeholders. So for example, Treasury, who takes care of the TMS, and finance, who takes care of the ERP. And have a clear segregation of duties. Data integration, so all the banks are integrated to TMS, TMS integrated to ERP. So we have a kind of an end-to-end flow in the end of the day. We need to ensure the accounts are connected to TMS and the flow is constant, so there is no disruption. So you need to have a clear process flow inside of the TMS as well. And we have clear flow from TMS to ERP. All the bank statements are flown daily basis. Transactions, when those take place, it means that we get the transaction information immediately to the ERP, which means the reconciliation, daily reconciliation is possible, which means that you're going to be facing less issues in the year-end rush. Also have regular checks against these two systems. So you have the TMS, you have the ERP, so you can reconcile the account information, which is one of the keys, and also the balance information on a constant basis. And this could be done, for example, through the API. So you have API flow through your database from both sides, so from TMS and ERP, and then you do the reconciliation in-house.
Lucy, a business unit insists they need 5 million locally, but group level reporting shows idle balances elsewhere. How do you resolve this conflict quickly?
What is quickly in this situation? Well, the obvious question would be, let's make an intercompany loan. But it's not as easy as this sounds, because we need our lawyer team, our tax teams to talk about any intercompany loans and intercompany contracts. Because we have transfer pricing, we have regulations and so on. I cannot just say, hey, let's send me 5 million euros from different counterparty, from different intercompany company. So this is one thing to think of, but of course this falls a little bit easier if there is already some structure in place. We can use cash pooling, we can use in-house bank, but we always need to see the whole picture behind.
Pekka.
Well, the key is visibility to all accounts. And when you have this kind of a situation, it's like you need to verify a request. So some subsidiary informs you that they need 5 million euros. So fine, that is sounds like it's urgent and it's actual, but you need to verify the request. You can utilize the forecast. So short-term forecast, how does it look? So is it imminent now? But tomorrow we get a lot of cash in for these subsidiaries. So just making sure that You take the discussion, you challenge the request, and make sure that it is imminent, and we need to do the following actions. If there is idle cash in the other entities, so you can always go once again in your forecast, look at the short-term forecast. How does it look? Is it really idle? So perhaps this entity which is lacking 5 million, the idle cash balances are going to be gone because they have expenses. The entity which is lacking 5 million gets income in the coming days. So make sure that you verify requests, make sure that the idle cash, which now looks idle, is actually idle, and it can be used for the purpose of funding this subsidiary which is lacking the 5 million euro. Then we need to make sure that we have all the documentation in place, so we are compliant transferring the funds between these entities, so it's legal, tax, there is no consequences on that. And in the worst case, if those are not possible, so you can always use the parent company as an intermediary between these entities. So usually it is likely that the parent company has an intercompany loan agreement between all the entities or most of the entities, so perhaps you can just flow through the parent company. And then utilizing cash pools or in-house banking makes life easier, so these situations shouldn't be that imminent if that's the case.
You are asked to update cash position twice a day instead of once. How do you balance accuracy versus speed without burning out your team?
Designing real-time processes well. That's how I put it very in few words.
Yes.
Again, what is real-time processes? It is automated data management, automated integrations. So then that puts emphasis on analyzing the data instead of extracting the data manually and making sure that you are handling the correct data.
Lucy.
I would be a little bit more curious about the background of this request. Why do we need to have positions recalculated multiple times per day? Because in my view, opening balance and quality liquidity forecast might be good enough for most of the decision points. But of course, there can be some different decision, and in that case, I would concentrate on intraday balances.
Pekka.
Well, the first question that comes to my mind is what is the reason we need to update twice a day? What is the leverage? Are we in a liquidity crisis? Because if we are, I should know about it. If we're not, then I would ask the question. Also depends on what kind of type of business are you in. So if you are in a business which needs the visibility on a twice a day basis, then I fully understand that's the case. Without the automation, it's a cumbersome task because you need to go to bank platforms, run the data on a twice a day basis. But through the automation, once again, like in the previous questions, so automation is the key for us at least. So I would take a look at the need first, evaluate the need, and then look, should we start getting intraday balances, how many times a day, and what are the other options there if you don't want to go that route. Also, you can leverage, if you don't have automation in place, you can leverage APIs. So you can make a simple solution by connecting banks which are offering the APIs through your Excels, get transaction data in your Excels and use the previous day balances as a base and start using that as your tool. Also to streamline the process with the workflows and standardized templates is one thing that streamlines the whole process. And prioritize the critical accounts where the most cash is laid. So you should make sure that those balances are at least up to date, and then consider the least important balances where you have less cash in the accounts. How should you treat those if you don't have the full ability to do twice a day updates? Also leverage existing flows. So if you are getting end of the day balances, supposedly your team is used for executing all the payments. So you can perhaps use some of the data evaluating the cash balances at twice a day. So that could be the option.
Lucy, you run a forecast, but sales volatility in Q4 is making it obsolete after just 1 week. How do you keep forecasts relevant under this pressure?
I need to align with the sales team what the current sales forecast is, and then I would run multiple scenario forecasts. Let's say I would run the forecast as is, and then I would run 2 stress scenarios, while one of them would be really like worst case scenario. So we have strategies ready for for any case.
In case you are relying on very static data or only on very old reports, so then of course it doesn't enable that good visibility over your real cash position over the days to come or weeks to come. So one very important cornerstone here is that you need to define that what is the frequency with which you wish to manage your data or update the data to the forecasting model again, and do it in a continuous way.
Yeah.
Because Treasury, as the core function in the corporate finance area, they are responsible for managing liquidity, but then also the FX exposure, and they need to make sure that the data that they are utilizing on daily basis is as up to date as possible. So
Right.
therefore, I would say that they benefit from having the as up to date information as possible, and that can be. We are able to provide the up to date information in case we are relying on continuous forecasting model instead of static reports.
When talking about liquidity forecasting, my very favorite topic is spreadsheet risk. It's something every one of us knows, but maybe we might not have the name for it. And it's when we are using our old good Excel, the best friend of a finance person, not always it works as expected. And most likely it's by human error. That, for example, we don't use the right formula, we don't grab the sum until the end of the column, or we just use a constant instead of variable. And when this gets unnoticed, which gets unnoticed very likely, it goes into our trend, it goes into our numbers, and the longer we have it, the less is the likelihood we will actually notice that. And if you print out such report, you have no clue of finding out you have such mistake.
The board asks, what happens if FX rates swing 5% in January or if a supplier defaults? How do you build scenarios that are credible but also quick to deliver?
Well, if we think about FX rates moving 5%, that is not completely obsolete these days. I mean, looking at the Swedish krona, for example, the volatility is extreme, and the 5% drop in 1 month, that's not absurd in that sense. The supplier defaulting, well, it's from my perspective, if you divide banks and suppliers, so you should never have the concentration risk. I mean, if you have all the money is laid in one bank, you have a concentration risk. If you have all your business supplied to one supplier, then it's a supplier risk. So I would take this as a good examples, which drives my next point is that you should always be prepared for different kind of scenarios. So you should always be on top of your FX risk. What is your current risk? How does it affect your results, etc.? So you should be aware of the position that you're currently in, and also make sensitivities on the suppliers. So if you have a big supplier, so if supplier defaults or disappears, so how does it affect on your results? So it's key to understand the full business, understand how critical the supplier is to your operation. What is your FX exposure? How does the supplier impact your FX exposure if it defaults, which means that you might redo your, if you have a cash-based FX hedging in place. So how does it affect on that? How swiftly can the supplier be replaced? What is the sensitivity for your FX? So 5% drop, what is the actual sensitivity? Do you do hedging? You don't do hedging, which is a completely different outcome in the end of the day. And what is the effect on the business as a result, and how does it feed into the cash flows? So that's kind of the basics. And on the modeling side, I'm not deep diving on the modeling, but I mean, just creating a dashboard for quick adjustments for the key variables, for example, FX rate, supply chain costs, what is the impact on the income, cash flows, etc. Creating a little bit stress testing to see how the model works, and do the presentation prioritizing the most impactful scenarios and on the business and on the cash, and point out the main risk that we are facing, not being overly concerned in the end of the day.
Okay.
So key is to find the solution for the problems that you are facing, because if you find the problem, you don't have solution, the board gets worried about it.
Lucy, the CFO challenges you. What's the downside if revenues drop 15% next quarter? How do you run and communicate the scenario without sounding alarmist? How do you defend your position?
This is a little bit bigger discussion within the company, because me as a treasurer, I don't have full visibility why the sales should fall down that much. So I would like to have a sales team with me to discuss what happened and what are going to be the consequences on the treasury. If they are supposed to drop 15%, or if we expect them to drop 15%, then I put it into my forecast and see what it does with the numbers and what next steps we need to take.
Well, I would ask the question in this instance that if you have a financing in place, you supposedly have some kind of covenants. So how do you ensure that you are comfortable with covenant levels without doing any stress testing in advance? So the basic is that you should always do the base scenarios, but in addition to that, you should have some kind of a worst case, the best case scenarios that could happen to you, depending of course your business. So if the business is extremely volatile, then that highlights the needs. If it's a stable business, the need is less, but still something you need to do. And I would start by running different scenarios to add on the base forecast. So question, what are the key variables, foreseen risks? So revenue, expense impact. So if the revenue drops 15%, what is the impact on the expense side? Cash flow implications. So how does it feed into cash flows, profitability? What are the key ratios? So liquidity, solvency, how the impact are on those. How do you mitigate those risks to feel the CFO comfortable? So you once again come up with the solution and proposal. So what are the potential sources of revenue offsets? Can we postpone some of the investments? What do we have in the pipeline? What is the buffer? What is the liquidity buffer? Can we survive with the liquidity buffer? Because supposedly all the companies should have a liquidity buffer. If you just live with very minimal balances, it means that if the worst case happen, something may happen to your company as well. So you need to be bear in mind in that. But I mean, overall, the communication, you should have a kind of balanced perspective. So company need to communicate both the challenges and the opportunities. Focus on solutions, because that is the key, that you come up with the solution, not with the problems. So actionable strategies, constructive paths to emphasize the adaptability. So that is the key, and just keep the open dialogue. I think that is a couple of the keys.
You've secured enough liquidity, but the CFO worries about idle balances and upticks. How would you explain the trade-off between safety buffers and the cost to the board?
This is my favorite topic. I wrote my dissertation around this topic as well.
Okay.
And without going too much into the theory, I would just like to mention that already Keynes in year 1936 was solving this question. The answer to this question is based on the company's risk appetite.
Right.
It's the company and the board who decides what is the risk appetite. Are we willing to go for more risk? Are we going to play situation safe? But anyway, in any scenario, it's as bad to have low idle balances as high idle balances, because there comes different costs into question. For example, if you have too low balance and you need to pay unexpectedly money, you need to get the money somewhere. You need to sell your liquid financial assets, for example, or do any other unexpected event which brings you additional costs.
Well, first of all, define the purpose. So why do we have these idle balances? So is it risk management, safety? So we need to define the purpose. Explain the costs and the pros and cons for having the idle balances, and just the balance and trade-off. So if you have the safety buffer there because you foresee some risk in the market. So for example, something happened in the lending market, the financing market. So could that be the reason? There should be always reason behind why you have liquidity buffers. And what is your optimal available liquidity buffer? So available liquidity is different than liquidity. So you need to define those two, because available cash means that it's excluding the trapped cash or restricted cash or cash which is going into investment. So you need to put these in separate buckets. What is the available liquidity also contains the working capital facilities or other facilities that you have access to. And do you have some other liquid investments? And this is kind of the complete picture that you should have. And what is your buffer? What is your liquidity buffer target? Are we below? Are we above? If we are below, then why we are below? It's not idle then. So this is kind of our needs, and we are below the needs. So how do we cover those needs? Suddenly the idle cash becomes the other way around. And if it's above the target, then why we are above? Are we looking at the market differently, and do we see some risks ahead of us? So what are the pros on having the idle cash? So going the other way around again. So the revenue drop. So your previous question. So if the revenue drops 15%, now we have the buffer. So there's kind of the safety net for the company. Do you have any acquisition investments in the pipeline? So if we do, so the liquidity buffer is to have idle cash. There is kind of a good crown for that. Creditworthiness. So if you have too much liquidity, sometimes the financing counterparties are looking positively your credit profile and give you more favorable terms. But of course, it is not only pros, there are cons as well. So potential return misses. So instead of making investments, acquisitions, so you lost the opportunities. And that is kind of the expense, because you don't gain interest in current markets because the rates come down from the top. So the interest income will be less than the generated income from potential acquisition and investments. The other one is inefficiency. So if you have a lot of shareholders which are unhappy because they want to see us deploying capital, and with having idle cash without any clear explanation, they would see it as an inability to deploy capital. So which could be a little bit concerning and might expose us to some actions. And the low rate environment, so you don't gain too much interest on the current environment. Of course, there are different instruments you can use, but it is quite minimal that you can gain from the market at the moment. And I think the key is the strategic balance. So what is the purpose? Why we have this idle cash? So is it risk management? Can we do dynamic allocations? So if you have idle cash, where we can allocate that? Can we repay the loans or use it for some other purposes that it's not idle anymore? If you are above the liquidity buffer, then perhaps one option could be to reduce the interest expense and do partial loan repayment, or do the short-term investment, just put it in play. So it's all about strategy and how do we see the idle cash and what is the reason for the idle cash for the time being.
Lucy, your board asks for a year-end liquidity story that's both precise and reassuring. What's the simplest way you'd frame it?
I would let the designer speak. I love waterfall charts for cash flow illustrations. So I would probably make a one-pager, or let's say a slide in PowerPoint presentation where I would put the current numbers and the expected cash flows in the next few days using charts, let's say pie charts for cash distribution and waterfall charts for cash flows.
Pekka.
Liquidity story. So I think it needs to be a couple of sliders, not too extensive. You don't want to go into deep dive. You need to tell it as a story. And I would start off as a summary. So what is, for example, if we are doing Q3 liquidity story in this instance. So what is the key events for the Q3? So how did we land in the current cash position? Which is the next one. So where are we at the moment? So a couple of liquidity metrics. So DSOs, operating cash flow ratios, or working capital ratios. These are kind of the key to present for the board. Then also comparison between our forecast and what are the actuals. So the board sees that, okay, Are we far off from the forecast, and or are we in line with the forecast? And the explanation for the deviation, if such occurs. So there might be income delayed or some other reasons which is causing the forecast deviating. And what are the plans if this happens in the next quarter as well? So do we have enough liquidity buffer if we see delays in our income generation? So that could be something to raise in the board as well. But at the same, the strengths. So if the cash flow is constantly positive, so you bring that up as a positive sign for the board. Also the major achievements, so operational efficiency. So if you have done some cost cutting, how does it see on the bottom line? How does the risk management go? So are we following our risk management policies, and how do we follow those? Then the outlook, so strategic outlook. So are there any investment acquisition which could explain why we are holding idle cash, for this instance? Financial flexibility, so we have enough liquidity. So what is the, once again, available liquidity? So what is available for use? Is it sufficient to cover the future current liabilities, long-term liabilities as well? So could show kind of the 1 year forecast going forward, and explain if there is any difficulties, challenges in the short term, medium term that the board should be aware of. However, not highlighting those, but coming up with a solution how we are mitigating the risk for the short term or medium term risks.
A regional CFO challenges your numbers in a meeting. How do you defend your position without undermining confidence?
It's important to realize we are looking at the situation from different viewpoints, because he's a regional CFO, he's interested in his region, while me as a treasury, I look at things from more centralized level. I look from the whole corporate structure. So there might be a mismatch in our goals and in our viewpoints, and again, the communication is the key. He might have a point, I might not see something from the other viewpoint, and it's important to communicate.
We need to know what we are doing. We need to know what data we are using. We need to have the confidence on our processes, and then of course the better we have constructed the processes, of course, so then the better, of course, standing point we have. And like I said, that the well-defined processes is the cornerstone here. We need to set the processes so that like I said, that we know what we are doing. The processes are consistent and also predictable, I would say, and the processes are repeatable. So therefore, it means that we don't, every time when there is a new thing, so we don't need to come up with a new solution, but that we are able to utilize those processes that have been well designed and then also fitting our requirements, and that also enables us to manage the processes with minimal errors. Of course, there are always room for error, but still, in case the processes are well defined, so then I think that it also ensures that we are able to minimize the errors.
The CEO wants a one-page snapshot of liquidity readiness before the holiday break. What would you include and what would you leave out?
That could be, that's a good question. So CEO.
Yeah.
Set it as a one slider, so that's the key. You don't want to deep dive in to detail analytics and data, because supposedly the CEO wants the comfort before the holiday season starts. So he wants to feel that, okay, everything is under control, we have enough liquidity, and we are comfortable that we're going to survive ahead of our holiday period, so he can spend the time with the family as well. So I would include the cash position, available liquidity buffer, just to make him feel confident. Any unexpected liquidity needs should be combined with the liquidity buffer, so showing that our buffers are sufficient. So that's one of the keys. The recent challenges, trends, so has been any challenges, if any challenges has been faced, so how have we resolved those challenges? What are the cash flow trends? Are we trending up? Are we trending down? So what are the reason? Is there any short-term investments, current liabilities in the near term that are large, and how do we cover those? Any liquidity risks in this context? So potential gaps, do we see the market condition changing, which could pose us to some kind of challenges, and also the cash flow projections. So how well we are with the forecast currently, and how do we see the future, just simply.
It's December 29th, and a cash mismatch threatens payroll. What's the first call you make?
After a while of panicking, I would take a look at the likelihood of the situation and at the impact. Obviously, there is prioritization, and it's a no-go to put salaries into risk. So I would take a look at my liquid assets, liquid financial assets, and check if I have any deposits which can be taken back with minimal cost. Or I would look at my overdraft possibility situation, if I can take a very short-term loan from the bank. Or coming back to the question about intercompany cash flows and subsidiary needing 5 million euros elsewhere, in case we have some higher tools to solve this situation, we could go that way.
Your external auditor raises a red flag about liquidity disclosure in the annual report. How do you manage it without panicking stakeholders?
Our figures must be transparent, and we need to be able to trace the figures. I think that is the key there. So in case we are in a position where the auditor comes and asks for the reasoning for the figures, and we don't have anything to provide, so then I think that we are in trouble. So therefore, I think that, again, how we have set the processes is here in a central role. And we need to be able to prove where the figures are coming from. Again, here the process documentation is in a central role. We need to be able to prove where we are extracting the information, on what basis, how we are integrating the information to one consolidation system. And like I said, the knowledge of data sources is very important, because we really need to know that where the data is coming from, and for instance how it has been managed between the system, in case there has been sort of filtering or some sort of modification or any other processes in place. So we need to be aware how the data is managed. And like I said, that the transparency in data management processes, that is in a central role.
You've optimized liquidity perfectly, whatever that might mean. But a business leader accuses Treasury of being too controlling and not flexible enough. How do you handle that pushback?
Let's take this offline. This is never-ending conflict between Treasury and the other business functions. And it comes because the Treasury's job is to take good care of liquidity, while the job of the other functions is to drive business elsewhere. And sometimes we might have conflicting needs, and that's perfectly okay, because our main goal is to do good for the business. So this very much depends on a company strategy, on the company's risk aversion, and we just need to decide what is, in this specific case, more important for us.
There's an IT outage. Your Treasury system is offline for 48 hours. How do you keep year-end liquidity under control?
Very good question, and this is sort of a Halloween horror story that no one wants to face ever. And continuity planning is here in a central role. So of course we need to recognize what are the most critical processes that we need to be able to keep up and running, even though we wouldn't have our core system available. There must be sufficient documentation, of course, but the documentation is not. It is not that the tool which we are able to solve the situation, but we need to have the alternative processes available. So in case there is sort of a downtown going on with the Treasury system, for instance, so then we need to know that what are the most important or critical tasks that we need to perform, and what are the means that we are able to utilize in that case. For instance, are we going to manage like Treasury payments directly throughout the banking portals, or what is the alternative way? But to my knowledge, actually this might depend on companies, because of course the companies they have different kinds of processes, they have different kinds of data sources, different kinds of requirements. But anyhow, I would say that the continuity planning here is in a crucial role, so that it must be there in place. And then of course all of the process owners must be aware of what must be done, when, how, in case there is this kind of an issue.
Let's bring this home. For anyone out there, could you give us 3 steps to get on top of liquidity in Q4? If not this year, then the next.
Absolute number 1 in my eyes would be quality forecasting. We need to have quality data about opening balances and as quality data as possible about the expected cash flows. Number 2 would be communication, because I believe communication is the key, and when you are open and when you are fair in your communication, you can make it really far. And number 3 is be ready. Q4 can bring anything, and when it catches you prepared and unsurprised, it makes your life better.
Q4 is always a challenge because it's close to end of the year, which means that everything needs to be top of things. All the balances needs to be aligned before the year ends, so you need to do the hustling in the beginning of next year, so you have everything prepared. So one thing is do you have the automation in place? If you do, you can feel comfortable because supposedly automation gives you a lot of comfort because manual interventions are less and less. So you have TMS integrated to your ERP, which gives you good confidence that all the data flows automatically there. Make sure that you don't have any unforeseen expenses coming. So that's one of the keys. So you don't have sudden drop in the liquidity because then you know how to start the next year. You still should retain the same principle as for the other quarters. So liquidity is important at all times, not only for the Q4. But perhaps one advice I could give is be on top of your liquidity in different systems. Make sure that your ERP, your Treasury system is aligned, so you don't face these difficulties once you go into the year and closing. Because I mean, it's just problematic to start to sort those out, the issues out in the beginning of 2026. So that's my brief advice. But Q4 liquidity, I don't see any difference from other quarters in this instance.
So, when the phone rings at 6 p.m., when someone needs an answer now, you don't want to be the one explaining why don't you have it. You want to be the one who says, here's what we know, and here's what we can do. The shape of the problem may change. Late data, mismatched balances, shifting forecasts, a curveball someone didn't see coming. But the role does not change. You're the one who has to see the picture clearly enough to act. Yes, automation matters, not because technology is exciting, but because wasted effort surely is not. Automation buys you time, consistency, and fewer surprises. And time is what lets you think instead of react. From automation, you get clarity. From clarity, you get room to make decisions instead of just reporting on them. The truth is, things won't always go to plan. Forecasts will break. Requests will come from left field. Year-end will squeeze timelines, tempers, and tolerance. If this year still feels like holding things together by effort and goodwill, that's not failure. That's a starting point. And if you are already past that, if the basics are solid, then the next step isn't heroic. It's iterative. Whether you are early in the process or well along it, the work is the same. Make tomorrow less dependent on luck than today was. And when the phone rings at 6 p.m., be the one who says, I've got it. My name is Antti Pekkala. This was Frontline Liquidity. Until next time, stay safe.